President Trump invited the released hostages to the White House. After hearing their stories in private, he authorized the U.S. Air Force to begin training missions with the Israeli Air Force. It's clear that what he heard shook him to his core. He is now fully aware of the evil the Western world is up against. I had the honor of speaking with two elite IDF soldiers who are on the front lines of that very fight. But it's tough to schedule an interview with any soldier in the IDF. With an elite one, chances are closer to zero. But today, you'll be getting an exclusive look the American legacy media would never show you.
Sometimes I won't pick up my camera because I know that I'm the second person going into the room, so the life of the person in front of me, that's in my hands.
These aren't just photographers. They are trained combat soldiers operating alongside Israel's most elite counterterrorism units. Their mission is to document history as it unfolds, because the only reason the world knows about atrocities is because someone recorded them. But these soldiers face an impossible dilemma, one that you should ask yourself throughout this video. If you were in their position, would you put down the camera to save a life, if it meant the world would never know the truth? Due to new security protocols, the soldiers' identities must remain hidden. That's because after October 7th, IDF soldiers traveling abroad have become literal targets. The stories you're about to hear are unfiltered, unaltered, and graphic. Proceed with caution. What made you want to become a combat photographer?
I think for me, also when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in the Army, it was about finding the thing that I could most give back to my country. Because as a girl, I could also have done 2 years of service and done some sort of office job and done 2 years of my service, bid my time and finished with it. But for me, it was really important to find something that I could, use my abilities. I also was a lot in sports in my whole life, so I'm in pretty good shape, and I really was important for me to find the way that I can most give back. And the combination between combat and also the photography, which is also a lot of art and also kind of a different side, kind of contrast to combat, that's what I felt that I can most give back to my country, and that's what really drew me into the role of combat photography.
Something you should know is that only 18% of the IDF's combat forces are women, and this young woman is no ordinary soldier. In Israel, military service is mandatory for both men and women, so seeing a woman in uniform is common. What is uncommon is for women to be on the front lines. She wasn't called to be there, she chose to be. That choice alone is heroic, and I'm sure you've already noticed her English is incredible. Well, here's why.
I moved now 6 years ago with my family from Los Angeles. My mom's Israeli, so we all made Aliyah here.
Is there a particular photograph that sticks with you that you kind of see at night when you shut your eyes?
When I was with the brigade in these past 2 months, I was with them for a span of about a week. And the day before I went out, it was just a normal day, and I was with this squad of 4 people, me and 4 other people, and that was the same day I got out. And then the day I got out, the night after, I heard that the day I wasn't with them, 3 of them were killed in an explosion. So hearing about it and knowing that I spent the entire day with them the day before, that's what really, just the pictures that I took of them, that's what sticks with me.
It's a horrifying reality, but death is no stranger to Israelis. This is a small country. October 7th was the equivalent of 10 9/11s. And then a war began. More death, more loss. Almost everyone I spoke to in Israel knew someone who had been killed. I heard stories from people on the street that still keep me awake at night, and I didn't even live them. They did. They lost people they loved, and yet this young woman, like so many others, has to push forward. She has to gear up, carrying those memories, and walk straight into the lion's den. So I wanted to know, when she's out in the field, does she relive those moments? Do those memories come back?
For me, when I'm in the field, I'm mostly just thinking about the mission that I have to do. I'm not really, if you really think about everything else, then it kind of distracts you from what you have to do. When I'm there, I think about the shot that I need to take, or the frame of the picture that I need, or the person that I have to talk to get to the most relevant place for me, to make connections with people out there. So for me, I'm more in the zone when I'm there.
Yeah. It's called combat photography, but I also want to ask, because I think you mentioned videos before. So when do you decide versus a photo versus a video?
So for me, a lot of times if I see a good frame of a photo and I have enough time, I'll take a few clicks of a photo, and then I'll also do a video of that situation. But if people are talking and saying something important, then I'll usually take a video instead of a photo. A video also helps us a lot with the explanation that we do to the world. If I'm in a situation like in Lebanon, we found a mosque full of weaponry. So there I would take a video of from the outside of the mosque all the way inside, showing like the whole situation to capture like everything that happened.
It's a very common tactic from Hamas and Hezbollah. They stop at nothing, using mosques, hospitals, and civilian structures as military bases. Because when Israel fights back, the left-wing media has its headline, "Look at what Israel did." But here's the truth. Documents uncovered from these terrorists prove they use mosques for military purposes. Captured terrorists have also admitted to using mosques as a military base. And of course, we have footage from combat photographers like this young woman that shows the reality. Her experience is one of many examples where if you were to rely on CNN or the New York Times for your news, you'd have no idea any of this was happening.
And it's important for me to say also that our role, what we do is we go in, I have my camera to just take a picture of everything as it happened, to document things as it happened. If I'm there and I see the weapons in a mosque, I'll take a video of it all. Like, I don't touch anything. I'm there with my camera, just documenting everything as it is. Like I said before, I took a video of it, the mosque outside all the way inside. People, a video in like Arabic and Hebrew and English explaining what happened there, what we found, how we did it. And I don't know if it shifted public perception, but I hope that the people that saw it really saw maybe a different side of the war that they hadn't seen before.
When you're out in the field and there's a mission to be conducted, how do you prioritize taking a photo versus being a reliable soldier for the others? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we have a few different cameras. Like we use a Sony camera, like a normal one, and then we also have a GoPro and like a body camera. So let's say I'm like running and I can't really hold my camera because I need to like be steady and not fall or like protect like the soldiers around me, then I'll like turn on my GoPro. So we have like ways to like multitask. But there are times where, let's say I'm walking and like my partner, like when you're in combat, you have a partner that's with you all the time. Let's say my partner is doing something and I have to protect him. So I won't pick up my camera because I know that I have a job to do. Or if we're entering a house, we're like clearing the house, making sure everything is safe. Sometimes I won't pick up my camera because I know that I'm the second person going into the room. So the life of the person in front of me, that's in my hands. So I have to be the one to like be ready if anything happens.
When I heard her talk like that, second person to clear the room, the only thing I could picture was a video game. But in video games, you respawn if you die. In her world, you don't. There is no margin of error. It's easy to forget, but she's also fighting America's enemies. With every one of those rooms she clears, we can all sleep better at night.
When you're out in the fields and you got to take your camera out to get a photo, how do the other soldiers react to your presence?
So sometimes they're a bit surprised because when a soldier's in combat, they're focused only on combat, and we have our two focuses, like the combat and the photography. So at first, some of them might be like, they want to understand like if we're in a high-strung situation. Sometimes my instinct will be to take out the camera, and something they don't understand because they don't have like the mind that a combat photographer does, I guess you could say. But once you're with a unit for a while, then they kind of get the gist of it, and when you pull out a camera, they're not really surprised anymore.
So this is actually a big deal. IDF combat photographers don't stay with the same unit. That means they're not only in the harshest situations, but they also don't have the luxury of months or even years to build trust with a team. Every mission, they're adapting to new soldiers, new environments, and new dangers. Now, Israel is fighting a war on multiple fronts, and it being a small country means people like her have to fight in different locations. So let's ask about her experience on a different front.
Are there some photos and videos that you can describe from Gaza that were particularly shocking?
I think maybe I've taken a lot of humanitarian aid, and seeing how it works is really very interesting, and I think not a lot of people see that side of what's happening.
During President Biden's term, he gave approximately $1.2 billion in aid to Palestine. In November 2024, the UN estimated that over one-third of aid entering Gaza was stolen, much of it by Hamas. See for yourself. Here's a clip of a Gazan citizen giving her perspective. Now, I wanted to ask her about a moment when she had to put the camera down and focus solely on the fight. Because of the secrecy of their missions, she couldn't share specific details, but her answer gives a rare glimpse into what it's really like on the ground.
The times when we're in the center and it's me and like another person going into a room, and then I have to be like completely on alert, and I forget the camera completely, and I'm like fully like a combat soldier, fully a combat fighter, like for everything.
So sometimes she really just puts the camera away and fights. Now that transition can't be easy, so I wanted to understand how she was trained for both combat and photography. What is that training really like?
Yeah, so it's 8 months of training. It's 6 months of combat training where we go through 4 months of basic training and then 2 months of like more advanced training. We train with the anti-terrorist, the LOTAV. It's a training that like most of the elite units in the army go through. So we're like properly trained for every situation that can meet us like in the field. And then after the 6 months of combat training, we go through 2 months of photography training and then also 2 more months of spokesperson training because we're part of the IDF spokesperson unit. So it's also important for us to know like everything that goes into that world.
So she goes from unit to unit on the field, but she's always a part of the IDF spokesperson's unit, which is a crucial branch of the IDF. They are responsible for managing information policy and media relations. And the LOTA, which is short for combating terrorism, is an elite unit in the IDF that is responsible for training all IDF units in the field of counterterrorism. So after all that training, I had to ask her what the toughest part was.
Probably the combat training, but after that, I think the connection of the combat training, the combat and the physical difficulty with the photography, because it really only clicks once you do it like for real. Like in training for me, it was a lot of like, how do I do it? How can I do both at the same time? Like you're going up a hill, you can barely breathe, but you have to pull out the camera to like document what's happening. And I think that was the hardest for me. But like once you do it a few times, you really understand it, get the flow. And so a lot of things I did in my training was it's called masaot. It's like long treks with a backpack on with a lot of weight in it. So we go through that, and then you have to. What we do is you have to like photograph the whole trek. It's usually at night, so it's also harder to take pictures at night, and it's like in hills and rocks and all of that. And then afterwards we have to like edit a video of like everything that happened, like to tell a story, and the photos from it too.
Thank you to our first soldier. What an incredible young woman. Our second interview offers a new perspective from another American citizen who decided to go to Israel and serve in the IDF. While he was already here before the war, it's important to note that since the outbreak of the war on October 7th, there has been a surge in immigration to Israel from North America. More than 10,000 requests to open Aliyah files have been submitted, marking a 76% increase from the same period the previous year. Nearly half of these applicants cited Zionist ideals and expressions of solidarity with Israel as their motivation. I asked him, why specifically this unit?
I think that for a long time, and certainly in the past couple of years, we've been seeing, whether it be fake news or all sort of buzzwords like that, but it's been clear that, we need honest, pure, free journalism. And so it's important for me to physically go out there and bring that, even if it's dangerous, even if it's hard, and sleepless nights, and tired, and not eating, and pain, and whatever it might be. It's important to go out there and bring back what we need.
His response is actually a testament to why this form of journalism has grown so much. People just want to know the truth. This is a graph showing the trust from the American people in mass media. Look at the green line just dive down. Only 31% of Americans have trust in the mass media now. And you know the networks to thank for that. But honestly, if it weren't for all their lies, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel.
So you're obviously in the most harshest situations, most intense situations. Have you felt conflicted about taking a photo before?
Definitely, and there's definitely photos that I might not have taken that I sort of regret not taking, but that's sort of like the conflict of every photographer, not just combat photographers, or like the frame that they missed. But there's also certainly hard situations that maybe I chose not to film, or maybe I chose to film, that people might judge me for having filmed. For example, in a situation where someone might have been injured or, God forbid, killed, to film that situation, where a soldier was injured or a soldier was killed, to film that situation might come off to someone from the side, it might come off as tasteless or weird. Why is he filming and not dealing with the situation? But then actually those videos that I might have filmed or photos can be the most important evidence in the end, because in a situation like that, with all of the adrenaline and confusion and people going here and there and screaming and whatever, people might not remember what happened or might not have seen the full picture, but photos and videos don't lie.
Photos and videos don't lie. I can't think of anything more badass for a combat photographer to say. Now, there is, of course, AI that poses a very serious threat to the truth. Like here, you can see a photo that Al Jazeera posted depicting a horrible life that children are living in Gaza. The only issue is this kid has 5 fingers but no thumb. Now, back to reality.
Can you describe the photo that, if you were to shut your eyes at night that you see? Is there one that sticks with you?
Yeah. I'm going to not answer the question. I'm going to twist the question a little bit and tell you what photo keeps me up at night, which would be, for me personally, October 7th. October 7th impacted me personally in that one of my best friends was taken hostage. And there was about a week after October 7th where we didn't know what happened to him. Where was he? Was he dead? Was he kidnapped? What was going on? And we ended up learning about his kidnapping from a video that Hamas had filmed and published online, where we saw him being kidnapped. And so for me, ever since October 7th, that's the video that I see playing in my mind 24/7. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about him and see that video. And it also goes to show sort of the impact of visuals, of how much that video has impacted me. And so I need to go out there and fight. I need to fight as hard as I can and with all of my energy to make sure that in the end the right side wins and that we win and we show the world what's going on, and we send the message that we send Israel's message to the world and show them what's going on.
Is your friend still in a hostage there?
Yeah. He's being held hostage for almost 500 days. And we don't know if he's alive or dead or when he'll come back, if he'll come back. But we, stay hopeful and keep fighting, and me and all of our friends and all of his family are doing everything we can to bring him home.
When he described seeing a video of his best friend being taken hostage, that's something I learned on my trip to Israel. That's actually how a lot of Israelis found out about their friends and family, because Hamas filmed everything and they put the footage on Telegram. So imagine swiping through the most horrific, graphic videos you've ever seen to identify your loved one. Now, I asked this combat photographer if there was a photo that he believed shifted public perception of the war. Wait until you hear this.
Certainly our entire job is to do that, to bring those videos back that will show the world what's going on and hopefully impact in some sort of positive way. And so I certainly feel that I do that all the time with all of my work. But there have been a couple of situations where I felt that I specifically filmed something. For example, we had an instance where I was able to film footage of Hamas terrorists that showed the connection between Hamas terrorists and international aid organizations like UNRWA and the UN. And I know that those videos have since been used and gotten to very high places, and that people are really seeing what's going on, and they're seeing the other side, that we're fighting against terrorists. They're not humanitarian and they do not care for the Israeli people, and they just want to harm civilians. And they see that Israel and the IDF is doing everything it can to defend our civilians and to bring back the hostages and to keep everybody safe.
So UNRWA is a UN agency that is supposed to provide humanitarian aid and services. Unfortunately, that's not all of what they end up doing. 12 UNRWA employees actually participated in the October 7th attacks that we know of. Israel also found out that UNRWA facilities are being used for military purposes. For example, in February 2024, the IDF uncovered a Hamas tunnel network and data center beneath UNRWA's Gaza headquarters. Other incidents include Hamas storing weapons in UNRWA schools, clinics, and using them as command centers or staging grounds for attacks on Israeli forces. Some of that work could have easily been captured by this soldier you see in the video, but we'll never know, and I asked him if that bothers him that he doesn't get the public recognition.
Yeah, it definitely, at the end of the day, everything just gets published as, photo of the IDF. And maybe it's like a ping to your ego that you don't get the credit, but at the end of the day, you know that I'm just a soldier. I'm one cog in a massive, well-oiled machine, and so to know that I'm doing my best job. A funny story, like I always go to the same place to get the newspaper every morning, and the guy who works at the stand notices that I'm always coming and looking at the newspaper, and I don't think he understands why. And I always want to tell him, like, hey, like that's my photo on the cover. It's not so important the credit at the end of the day. Like it's more important the work and that the work gets done and that it has the impact that it needs to have.
Have you ever had to put down the camera to help a situation?
Yeah, unfortunately, many times, which is good and it's important. And as I mentioned before, through my training, I know what to do and I'm able to handle those situations. But at the same time, I know that my job is to raise the camera. And even though we might be in a difficult situation, those are the moments, even more so, that need to be documented and need to be shown to the world. And so that's sort of the challenge And maybe the beauty of the job is like learning how to do both at the same time.
Wow. At the end, that's when it fully started sitting with me. Especially on the bus ride back, I thought, this guy, this young woman, they're my age. They charge into rooms they're not positive they'll have the luxury of leaving. They go in with not just a gun, but a camera too, to show us the truth. Now, I grew up hearing the stories of heroes like any other kid, but it was different to meet them in person. Hearing from not only them, but others in Israel, what it's like to wake up to the sound of rockets, the truth is, I never would answer them with, I understand. Because I don't. It would be naive to say I do. We live in America, and all I could say back was, I deeply admire how you're able to not know whether you'll live or die one night, and the next morning you're at a cafe just joking with your friends. That's what Israel is, though, for the soldiers and for the civilians. Thank you for watching. In another episode, I hit the streets of Israel and asked people what they think of Trump's plan to take over Gaza. And that episode is on your screen right now, and I'll see you there.